This week, coming up from the ashes.
We've gone almost 2 hours now. This is probably going to be closest to one of our longest podcasts that we've ever done. It's up there
This
with
honestly should have been a two-parter.
it really should. But you know what? We could possibly make this a two-parter. Matter of fact, I may split this episode and make it a two-parter. And we're going to.
It's genius. We don't even have to do. All right, yeah, there we go. that all works out, man.
So, I think we're gonna make this a two-part episode, and that way we still keep with our time frame and whatnot. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to From the Ashes podcast. Today, we are continuing our podcast from last week with the part 2 of Spooky Legends of Our States. That is coming up from the ashes. Enjoy. But anyways, moving on. So I've got a couple in here that are quite interesting to talk about. And to be fair, since he talked about the gateway to hell, I'm going to bring up another one that is supposed another great gateway to hell. And out here, there's this 11-mile stretch of road, and it's called Riverdale Road. And it's supposedly one of the most haunted roads in the United States.
I think I've heard about this.
Really? So if you research Riverdale Road, you will most likely come across a dozen different stories or whatnot about this road. And basically it starts off because this Riverdale Road is in a county called Adams County, and it stretches from Thornton to Brighton, and there's been several crashes throughout the years, most recently as of 2022 where 3 people were killed. But there's a lot of different things about this road that makes it so different. Like, for instance, there's a haunted Camaro that you could see. Well, it's a haunted Camaro that you could see driving down the road that has one headlight. There's also, apparently there's this mansion that sits on the road. Well, it doesn't sit on the road, it sits off the road, you know what I mean? And apparently this guy set fire to it, and with his family inside of it, and basically, killed everybody in it. However, that was proved false because there are no alleged deaths in that fire, because there was a fire. But you know how stuff gets started. I mean, let's be honest. But so there's also supposed to be a Devil's Gate on this road. There's a person, where's that at? There is a basically this person, as you're driving down the road, you'll hear someone tap at your car on the driver's side, I guess. And so it's apparently someone that died on the road. It's just so many spooky things about this road. And like I said, it's supposed to be an 11-mile stretch of road that is also, there's from phantom joggers, it says, to heartless cows, gates of hell. There's all kinds of stuff about this road that is just like absolutely terrifying, apparently, to people. And they say, like, you don't want to drive down this road at night because this is when all the crap happens. So yeah, so that is about the some of the stuff about that road. And Arson, you said you've heard about it?
Yeah, I just never dug that deep into it.
Yeah,
only surface level stuff.
Well, man, when I started doing the research earlier in the week, I was just like, man, there's so much in Colorado, like so much. And it's crazy because this is one that I was going to save a little bit later. But yeah, like some people think it's just a myth because, you know, that nothing's ever happened, and then some people swear by it that, you know, that all of it's true. But like I said, you know, the fire, the mansion fire was debunked. So I'm sure a lot of it can be debunked, but I could have driven down this road which I don't think I ever have. Cause I don't think I've ever been into Adams County. I don't know where that is. But I could have driven down this road and not even known it, you know, because they say there's a lot of twists and turns on the road. It's really curvy. So, you know, I mean, a lot of stuff happens on curvy roads at night, especially if you're coming back from a bar or something, you know, I mean, you know, crazy stuff.
Doesn't have to be paranormal.
No, it doesn't have to be paranormal. It could be just the way the road is made. Like there's this haunted, there's this wonderful haunted, what is it? Pothole, you know, and it gets me every time I go down that road. I mean, come on, that's stupid to even think that. Like, you know, it's a stretch of road, you know, but a lot of people swear by this, and, you know, but there's some people that say nothing's ever happened to them on it. So yeah, that is my story of the Riverdale Road. There's just a lot of creepy stuff that happens down that road, apparently. So yeah. All right. So I've got 2 more stories to tell. I'm going to tell this one, and then once we get back to me, I will tell my final one. And this one goes a little deeper into the lore, and we're talking about a town that used to be called Buckskin Joe. Okay? And this was an old miners town, basically, and it's named after a guy named Buckskin Joe, which the guy's real name, where is it at? His name was Joseph Higginbottom. Now, Higginbottom makes me think of a famous wrestler, but his name's not Higginbottom, it was Hickenbottom, and it was it was Michael Hickenbottom, which is, anybody that knows anything, is actually Shawn Michaels. So it's kind of funny when I see Higginbottom, that's what I think. But anyways, so this Joseph Higginbottom, or AKA Buckskin Joe, was a mixed race Canadian. They said he was black or mixed race, fur trapper and gold panner in the Colorado Rockies. And not long after Pikes Peak Gold Rush began, which is, you know, Pikes Peak is near Colorado Springs. And it was most likely in the winter of 1860, Buckskin Joe found himself, you know, doing his thing, and come to find out a little bit down the road, he ended up contracting tuberculosis. So he did recover from that, from what I've understood, but so that's just the beginning of it, though. So you get past that. I was just telling you a little bit about the town, Buckskin Joe. Literally, that's the name of the town. All right, so in Buckskin Joe, there is the tale. This is called the Ballad of Silver Heels. So, dang you, Arson. This is called the Ballad of Silver Heels. And the tale of Silver Heels is a complicated one that is both extremely easy and frustrating. You know, it's difficult to recount. So there's a lot of variations of the story, and it's almost impossible to get a beat on the original narrative. So take it with a grain of salt, you know, Lake City. Oh, sorry. Anyways. So the stories do seem to agree that Silver Heels was actually an entertainer employed by the local saloons. She danced for wages and maintained a mysterious facade. According to most of the tales, she never told anybody her name. And in fact, she actually wore a mask or a veil of some kind so that no one saw her face. So she was probably a real catch, you know, nice body, butterface. I don't know. Anyways, but as a result, the town came to know her as Silver Heels, and they named her that after her silvery shoes that she wore while dancing. All right. That being said, Silver Heels could only have been in town for a short time. And then smallpox came to the town. Okay. The disease was a huge threat that mining towns, well, isolated mining towns, because, you know, like it was just a small town, and, you know, everybody would go places and you could contract that pretty easy. So people were often living in like rough conditions, and the nearest doctors were super far away. So when the first case of smallpox struck Buckskin Joe, it was in like late 1861, and it spread quickly. Most of the miners refused to abandon their claims to seek respite in other locations. So they were like, no, I'm digging here. I'm not moving. This is what I'm doing. And as a result, many of them became deathly ill. And there were a few people to take care of them. And one of those who did was Silverheels. And according to the lore, Silverheels remained in town getting food and supplies for the sick and helping to tend to them. Some say she even produced large sums of money, either saved up from her time dancing or from some unknown source. She did that to bring a doctor to town. How many died is basically unknown, as like not very many records were kept in that town, or actually still exist. But it was said to be a bad time, obviously. So by the spring of 1862, the worst had finally passed, and those who remained in the town remembered the diligence of Silverheels. And the miners set out, to go to her cabin, and they were bringing her a gift around the sum of like $5,000, which back in that day was a lot. But the thing is when they arrived to her town, or to her cabin, they found it basically in immaculate condition, like clean as a whistle and empty. So some of them say that Silverheels had caught smallpox and died of it somewhere on the mountainside. And some say she contracted the disease and survived, but was so scarred by pocket marks that she could no longer make a living as a dancing girl. I mean, to be fair, though, she always covered her face, so I don't know if that would be the case. But others simply end the tale at the cabin saying she vanished and was never seen again. So a lot of that stuff with this tale is quite really cool, because they actually... So the town is no longer called Buckskin Joe. It's called something else. But they made, and this is another tie into what I said earlier. There's a town called Canyon City, and outside of Canyon City, they literally had a Buckskin Joe. Like, what was it? Man, what a good time to get a brain fart. Like an attraction. And apparently it was pretty good, but it shut down in like some odd years ago. But yeah, it's quite interesting because there's a lot of things that happened with this town, because there was a lot of westerns filmed in the town, like after such. I can sit here and name quite a lot. But they said that was something along the lines of like, I can't remember. I'm trying to think. Whatever, somewhere in the lines of like 50 or more movies were made, if not longer. Some like True Grit. If you guys don't know what that is, then I know Tim knows what it is. And the TV show How the West Was Won, several episodes were shot there. So there was a lot of movies that were filmed there as late as 2010. So yeah, that's literally they closed it and it was sold to a billionaire, William Koch, which another name that some of us may know. And he moved the old buildings to a private property in the Western Slope. But so I don't know what's going on after that, but yeah, that's the story of Buckskin Joe and Silverheels. I find it really, really cool. Like someone came in and just basically a stripper, or an entertainer, at a saloon. So it could have been a lot more than just a stripper dancer, in those days. But she really stepped up and did her part and possibly died because of it or just disappeared. But it's a pretty cool and creepy story. So, but that is my second to last story, and I'm going to pass it back to Tim to tell one another.
Funny thing is, I think the next two stories I'm about to tell all feature tuberculosis.
Really?
So, yeah. Like this one, I'm going to talk about Camp Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Don't you mean
This
Louisville?
small
I'm kidding.
Frankfurt.
Go ahead.
There's that old joke real fast. You know, how do you pronounce the capital of Kentucky's name? Louisville or Louisville?
It's Frankfurt.
It's Frankfurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
The small community was once a military camp named after General Zachary Taylor. The streets are named after other generals like Sherman and Lee. During the camp's time as a military site, the tuberculosis epidemic struck Louisville. Camp Taylor was devastated by the disease, and bodies were said to be stocked from floor to ceiling in some of the buildings. Ghostly soldiers and even a few women from a bygone bordello are said to wander the neighborhood. Many residents have reported seeing soldiers walking in formations across the fields and streets, and a blonde woman in a blue Victorian era dress is also known to wander the area. A young girl also roams Taylor Boulevard along with the soldiers, but her origin is unknown.
Hmm. That's pretty creepy.
I mean, can you imagine waking up and seeing the soldier? Can you imagine waking up and seeing the soldiers like hit on the hooker?
Yeah. That you would think you're still dreaming though. Like I can't be awake. That's not possible.
Uh,
That's a pretty cool
yeah,
story.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us your next story as well? We'll go ahead and start getting these out of the way so we can start closing up shop here soon.
Okay. The Waverly Hills Sanitarium,
Oh,
Louisville.
here we go. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. All right, go ahead.
Even those unfamiliar with Waverly Hills twisted past. I'm sorry. I can't find my glasses, so
My
one more time.
glasses. I can't see a thing without my glasses.
Shut up, Velma, kicker. Even those unfamiliar with Waverly Hills twisted past can agree that the ominous structure looks creepy even from a distance. The Gothic structure was built in the early 1900s as a tuberculosis hospital and later a mental hospital and geriatric center. The death count here was so high that patients were delivered for burial and disposal through a tunnel system deemed the death tunnel. This was done to This was done to prevent panic among the residents. And it wasn't just the ill who lost their lives at Waverly. A nurse is known to have hung herself in the bell tower, and her spirit is said to wander the halls of Waverly, along with many patients. People who take footage or photos at Waverly often later find floating orbs and distortions in the images.
Sanitarium. Sorry. Yeah, that's a story that goes way back because like I've heard that over years. It ties into like the haunted hospital myth and all that stuff. And I've always liked that. Like I've had friends go to that, and that's also another one that's been featured. I'm pretty sure on like a Ghost Hunters type show. I'm pretty sure.
Sure. I actually have a movie that was shot in there.
Really?
Yeah, but I can't remember the name of it. But it was about the hospital itself. And so they were able to film in there.
That's pretty interesting. And there again, word of the day. Yeah, I was wondering if you're gonna bring that up. That's a
I almost didn't bring it up because it's one of the most well-known horror stories.
well, yeah. I mean, I would say probably Zombies heard of it, but I don't know if Arson's heard of it. Have you guys heard of Waverly Hills or whatever?
I've been there twice.
Oh, have you?
I haven't.
Yeah, it's
Why not?
No, I haven't heard of it. I I haven't been there either.
Yeah.
I also haven't heard of it.
Well, you're a little far from it. So,
Yeah, it'd be a little
yeah.
out of the way for me to just up and know about.
I mean, you're further than I am, so. But yeah, I have friends that would go there every year, you know, because they have stuff that goes on down there now. But yeah, that's, oh man, I'm glad you brought that up. But all right, well let's move on to Zhombi for his last of his stories.
So I'll stick with the thing. I have two. And these are both fairly short.
Yeah.
But these are both personal experiences, places I've been. So Phoenix, you can verify this with Phenom.
Yeah.
But we went to Vincennes University.
Mm-hmm. I can't verify
Now,
that.
Well, just wait till he gets home and ask him.
Okay.
Because he went there too. That's how I met him.
Right.
And for those of you unfamiliar with Vincennes as a city, Vincennes is a very old town. It has its origins back to a French fur trading port back before the U.S. was a country.
Also a big party school.
Well, yes.
So,
I'm not getting into Vincennes, university life.
right, I know.
But I mean, Vincennes University was a university before Indiana was a state. So Vincennes University was founded in 1801. So you're dealing with a very old town. So I had a friend there who one Halloween took us to see some of the creepy spots of Vincennes. So the first place we went was the cemetery. And in it, there are a couple things that really stick out. One was there's this particular patch of land that was surrounded by a road that made a triangle. And there were 3 trees one on each point. Now, the rumor was that a witch was buried in the middle of this triangle. And that no matter what time of year it was, that ground would be slightly warm. Now, not like you're standing on, you're like, wow, this is nice. But if you stuck your hand down to it, the ground would be warmer than it should be for that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
There was another part that was rumored to have a crystal skull buried there.
But Indiana Jones found it? Sorry, I had to. Sorry, go ahead.
But something was wrong with it. So instead of crystal skulls, like I said, emit all massive amounts of energy, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was the opposite. Instead of emitting energy, it was pulling it all in.
Really?
Yeah. And the only other place that he really took us was a train bridge leading into Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
That was popular for students who wanted to terminate their life science, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But continuing on the TB trend, there's the Indiana State Sanatorium, which is in Rockville. For those of you who are been from Indiana.
Yes.
So it's not quite as big as Waverly Hills. It is much smaller. But it was opened. It was a Hospital from 1908 to 1968.
Did you say tuberculosis hospital?
Yeah.
Okay. You cut out with the little in the middle of tuberculosis.
Sorry, I'm getting sick, so I'm, my
Mhm.
voice is
Oh,
not as
gotcha.
good as it normally is.
Gotcha.
It was reopened in 1976 as a mental care hospital. And it operated there until 2011 when it closed, leaving behind hundreds of beds and hospital equipment. So we went there,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a very, I mean, it is, I didn't get any like creepy ghost type feelings from it.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be, but the main sense that you get was just a general eeriness because it literally looked like everybody just got up and left.
Hmm.
Like you go to, so you have the way the buildings are laid out is you have the main hospital that was built for the tuberculosis. And then later on, a um, the mental institute part of it was built. So you have like three different buildings that are all connected, uh, and that are all in different states of decay.
Mm-hmm.
But and you have like the power generator room and all like building, and in the back of that there's just mountains of clothes. You can see suitcases and personal effects of people that checked in that never left.
Hmm.
I mean, there's just these mountains of clothes sitting in a back room.
Oh, geez.
Suitcases opened up. It looked like somebody just came in, they had it, and they just tossed it in the pile. You have the main office, and there's computers in there, uh, old modems. There's medical records that are still there. It's just really weird because it literally looks like everybody just got up and left.
Hmm.
They just literally left whatever they were doing there and left.
That's like one of the creepiest things right there, something like that.
And that's what, like, because I went with my brother and my mother,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we were saying is that's what's creepy about it, is that it's what we expect to see from Hollywood of a haunted hospital.
Yeah.
You kind of expect to see, oh, well, where'd everybody go? That picture I sent you, Phoenix, of that kitchen I said you could work in,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that was from this place.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez.
So I've got all kinds of
Again,
pictures.
trying to get rid of Phoenix early.
You always are. Both of you. Jeez.
When have
But
I ever done that?
You guys talked about it last week.
I don't remember.
Go back and listen to the podcast. Trust me.
Doesn't count. Don't remember.
I literally started it with the cold open. You can literally listen to the first minute of the podcast and hear what you're talking about. Anyways, continue, Zombie. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So it's a really cool place to visit because there's the old boilers and you could just see like the decay of the building
Hmm.
and in different stages of everything.
Yeah.
And it's just the old boilers and power generators and you know steam tunnels and all that other stuff.
Hmm. That's wow. That's pretty neat. That's neat. Place I like to go visit. I had such a fascination with haunted buildings and stuff like that years ago. I'd say early 2000s. So like I really did. Um, but yeah, so I wouldn't want to work in that kitchen though. No, unless it's been remodeled. Just saying. All right, well, Arson, what about you, man? You got a story or two to finish off, and then
I got more. I got a lot,
do
but
you?
we dragged this on for so long. I
Oh, we're
can't
only.
believe I picked out all these extra ones, man.
I know. Well, what we could do is okay. How about this?
I'll
Tell.
just bring one up quick, and then I'll bring up this one, which is a very interesting one that really got my attention. I probably have
Okay.
to read the entire excerpt, but the quick one I just want to get over with, which
Okay.
probably a lot of people know about, is Skinwalker Ranch. It is a place that is reportedly highly haunted. Not only are there reports of a lot of supernatural things happening, but also UFO sightings and really freaky extraterrestrial stuff. One of the big examples about the hauntings is like uh, cattle and other livestock being found extremely mutilated, or stuff like that. And it's a whole thing. Like there are like uh, shows about it. I think there was a movie, but yeah, it is a very haunted place supposedly, but I would never go and check for myself. But yeah, there's that. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of history in it, but I'm not gonna get into it because that's just gonna take more time.
Well,
But
you know what's really interesting with that as well? I want to bring this up because I wasn't going to bring this up, but Colorado also has one about cattle mutilation. I try to combine the words that happened back in like 1975 ish, and they say it had to do with predators and UFOs and stuff like
mm,
that. So it's quite interesting. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I figured I would. And that's on. I found that on the History channel on history.com. So anyways, continue. Sorry.
dang. All right, well, but yeah, there's that. Um, and this one, which really interested me, is Montezuma's Gold. It is a very interesting story that I'm just basically going to have to talk about the whole thing right here because it's a story that continues to this day. And so
I've heard of
reading
it.
reading from the page here. It's a story shrouded in mystery, dating back 500 years and puzzling people to this day. A possible treasure buried around Kanab, Utah, has its origins from when Spaniard Hernan Cortez landed in Mexico in 1509. Here's what you need to know about the hunt. Uh, a possible treasure buried around Kanab, Utah, has its origins from when Spaniard Hernan Cortez landed in Mexico in 1509. Upon the Spanish conquistadors' arrival, the Aztec Emperor Montezuma offered Cortez gifts to ease potential disputes. This generosity, some believe, sparked Cortez's thirst for riches. He put the emperor on house arrest and pillaged the town of, sorry if I butcher the name, Tenochtitlan, for gold and silver, torturing and killing many of the native people. The Aztecs rebelled against the Spaniards, and Cortez brought Montezuma out of the palace to appease them. But when the Aztecs saw their emperor's new ties with the Spaniards, they felt betrayed and attacked him with stones and spears. Montezuma died, and Cortez and his men were forced to flee. Legend has it that thousands of Aztec men, both warriors and slaves, headed north to seek a resting place for the remaining riches. After they buried the cache in the desert, the warriors sacrificed their slaves to watch over it for eternity. Cortez and his men scoured the region, but the treasure of Montezuma was, and remains, nowhere to be found. And so we skip ahead to the early 1900s in Kanab, Utah. It was a small farming community set in the Red Rock Desert of southwest Utah. In 1912, the town made a bit of history for having the first all-women city council and mayor. 2 years later, as the city council was serving its final productive year in office, a prospector named Freddie Crystal arrived in town with high hopes. He brought with him a map and illustrations of Aztec petroglyphs. Freddy had been in Mexico when he came across a monastery set for demolition. As he leafed through old manuscripts from the time of Herman Cortez, Freddy discovered a hand-drawn map that he claimed bore a striking resemblance to the terrain around Canab. He set off on a hunt to find a cave with the Aztec petroglyphs. At the entrance, it was here, he thought, that Montezuma's buried treasure was buried. It wasn't until 1922 that Freddy Crystal discovered the cave that fit the bill. According to the local legend, Freddy and his men stood atop a canyon rim after years of fruitless searching. He gazed out across the desert landscape and then looked back at his map. Suddenly, it hit him. The cave in front of him matched the one on his map. He ran down the entrance, which towered high above him. Stairs carved into the sandstone led to the base of the cave, which was sealed up with a stone mortar. Freddy and his group scraped away at the wall with pocket knives. When that didn't do the job, he brought the news back to the townspeople in Canab. Excitement and anticipation buzzed throughout the town as everyone wanted part of the treasure. The town of Canab all but shut down as nearly 3/4 of its residents flocked to the hills to unearth the treasure site. They worked tirelessly, digging out the labyrinth of sand-filled tunnels. However, after months without a sign of Montezuma's treasure, the workers finally gave up and headed back home with their heads hung. Eventually, Freddy Crystal left, never to be seen in the town again. So, fast forwarding even more to that, basically, they were trying to, like, people are still trying to find it to this day. And apparently, people try to find it. There are, like, this whole cave system. They eventually found that, and people still try and find the gold. And apparently, there's also this pit in the Three Lakes. It's like a pond, and people try to search the pond, but as people try and, like, go to, like, an underwater tunnel that they found, apparently divers experience seeing shadowy figures and a choking sensation, and so they could not go any further because, well, they would literally just suffocate, or at least they felt like it. Um, and then there was a story where a prospector was drilling towards the tunnel instead of just diving towards it. Um, and he drilled up like gold. So he tried to drill even more, but his drill broke off.
Hmm.
So he just fucked off and decided that he was going to later dig it out at another time. But on that same night, he died from a heart attack.
Wow.
So to this day, I guess aside from that little gold bit, people have not found the treasure of Montezuma.
That is really cool. Oh my gosh. Wow, that's a lot to take in, to be honest. I've always heard of Montezuma's gold and all that stuff and the story and whatnot, but I didn't realize that took place in Utah, like that part. Like
Yeah.
that.
Well, technically, it kind of didn't. It's just kind of where it's a part of the story, sure,
Right.
where it's buried and all,
Mhm.
supposedly.
That's
But
really cool. I love it.
yeah,
I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that tale? Anybody got anything on that?
I just don't want Montezuma's revenge.
I just think that if Nicolas Cage decided to go out and he'd find Montezuma's gold, you know.
I'm sure he would, but we never see him again.
That's true. That's true. Gosh, you were talking about like I was sitting there thinking, I know this is the worst thing to think about, but like you get the choking sensation. You're gonna see a lot of women that like that sensation, during certain times, going out there just to get that sensation. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, let's go. From the Ashes tries to find the lost gold, the lost treasure of Montezuma.
Who's
Our
coming?
final episode.
The final episode. Yeah, we're gonna record it, but it'll be found 30 years down the road, and that's when we become famous. Well, that's a good story, man. I'm gonna end mine. I've kind of got, so I've kind of got one story, and then I've got one about my hometown. Not too much. Matter of fact, I'll probably tell the hometown first. So I grew up in a small town in Indiana, and that town is Vevey, Indiana, and it's spelled Vevay. And a lot of people come into the town and say Vive, and that's not how it's pronounced. However, there is a haunted mansion in there, and it's called the Shink Mansion. I think I said that right. But it's literally a lot of backstory and lore to it. But I really just bring this up because it is something of my past. I've never been there to it. But a couple years ago, if anybody knows who Kat Von D is, she actually bought that mansion and moved her family out to that area to raise her kid in a small town instead of being in a city, which you got to give her respect for that, you know. But you know, there's a lot of creepy stuff that's said to happen in that place, you know, prior to her being there. I don't know if it happens now, but it used to be like a you know, a hotel, and people would go there at the mansion and stay the night and whatnot, and said that a lot of creepy stuff would happen. But I can't back that up. I know probably a lot of my, you know, classmates and chums from back in the day probably would have some stories, but they're not here. So I'm going to move on to another hotel, probably the most famous hotel in all of America. It is the site of, and I said that this would come back up. So Stephen King wrote a little book, and this book was the site of where this hotel sat, this mansion, hotel, whatever you want to call. But that book, which turned into a movie, which had some really good one-liners in it, is called The Shining. If you're in The Simpsons, it's called The Shining, you know, copyright stuff.
Want to
However,
get sued?
yes. So, the Stanley Hotel is the name of this place, and it is like a 140 room colonial revitalized hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, or Estes Park. I don't know. Anyways, it's about 5 miles from the entrance of the Rocky Mountain National Park, and it's about 4.5 hours from where I live. So the history of this goes as basically the owner, well, in 1903, the steam power car inventor, Freeland Oscar Stanley, or F.O. Stanley, was stricken with a life-threatening resurgence of, once again, tuberculosis.
This
Like, there's a lot of TB talk in this, you know?
Yeah.
But the most highly recommended treatment of the day was fresh, dry air with much sunlight and a hearty diet. So they wanted to make sure, you know, all that was a factor. And trust me, before I moved to the Rockies, I've never known dry air. You know, I grew up in Indiana where it's like you could cut the freaking air with a knife. So, you know, it's like real thick, and it's a whole lot different out here. Even when it rains, we get some, you know, some of that remnants of Indiana, but it never sticks around. Like in Indiana, it could be 90 degrees, but the real feels like 98, 100. Out here, if it's 90 degrees, it's usually the real feels like 88 or 85. And so it's like, you know, it's cooler out here. At night, I live in a desert climate, so at night it gets down into the 30s or 40s, and then in the morning it'll be in the 60s, and by midday it'll be, you know, 80, 85. So that being said, that was, you know, fresh, dry air. So, and plenty of sunlight. So yeah, so he and his wife Flora arrived to Denver, Colorado, and they on a recommendation, moved to Estes Park for the rest of the summer. Over the season, Stanley's health improved dramatically. Impressed by the beauty of the valley and grateful for his recovery, he decided to return every year. He lived to be 91 years old and dying of a heart attack, well, oddly enough, in Massachusetts, 1 year after his wife in 1940. So he returned and built this, you know, hotel, this mansion, whatever. It's literally, like I said, 140 rooms. But it's kind of funny because they said he died in Massachusetts, but his ghost could be seen at the Stanley Hotel apparently, and his wife's could be seen tickling the ivories of piano that's not there. They say that there's a lot of like apparently, which so let me get into this real quick and then I'll move it along really quick. So during it was like what 1970, I can't remember. Here we go. 1974. Stephen King and his wife spent one night at the Stanley Hotel, and that's where he got like the his mind thing, whatever genius idea to have it there and blah blah blah. And like, yeah, so he apparently witnessed some stuff or at least got some creepiness out of it, and they literally made the movie The Shining out of that hotel. Now after that, and it says despite a peaceful early history, in the years following the publication of The Shining, the Stanley Hotel gained a reputation as a setting for paranormal activity and has been frequently named as one of the most haunted hotels in the United States. It has hosted numerous paranormal investigators and appeared in shows such as Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures. So this show, this whole thing, red rum. Yes, I did the finger thing too. So, and here's Johnny. All of that is 4 hours from me, or 3.5 hours from me. I can't remember exactly, but it's quite amazing. And it talks about, wait a minute, what's this? Oh, this must be something else. I just saw something with the Utah with a haunted hospital. It just literally popped up and it says, somebody said that I'm convinced the Stanley is one of the more active locations out there. He said they deeply love this hotel, blah blah blah, the hauntings. But yeah, I will make it my goal to get out there to see the Stanley Hotel before I'm done with Colorado. I definitely want to see it. It's going to be something I'm going to do. Maybe a Discord meetup with some people. Maybe we can go up there. I don't know, but I would love to go see it, and I'm definitely going to add it to my list, and it's going to be done. So, but that's it. I don't, not much has to be said about the Stanley Hotel. Most people know what it is. And if you don't, then you're definitely not either a horror buff or you're just too young, so I love that. And I think that's why I wanted to end it with for me on that. So I know Arson said he has a couple more he wants to run through, so I'll let him do that, and then we'll wrap it up from there.
I kind of exaggerated, but yeah, sure.
Did you now?
Well, honestly, let's see. 2 more.
Okay.
Well, one of which is just a friend's because he kind of helped me bring up some of these. Another one isn't really just. It's more or less just a cautionary tale for a lot of people. That's basically the forest around here.
Mm-hmm.
In the mountains or anywhere else that's very dense.
The forest.
So
Are there cannibals?
believe it or
Sorry.
not, there is some very disturbing cult activity here in Utah. Whether I'm not gonna call out certain groups, but there are, and if you want to
Yes.
look into that, then you can. But yeah, there is some very freaky stuff that happens in the forest. There are lots of reports from hikers. Hell, some of those hikers probably never even lived to report some of that stuff. And it's just, whenever you offer me to go hiking, I'll say no. Because, man, the amount of things that I've read
Mm-hmm.
or heard from around the area is terrible. So
That's
there's also other different things I wanted to bring up as well, but I don't want to be insensitive. So,
yeah. Well,
but as for another one, I think this one is one of my friends. He comes from Nebraska, I believe. And this is the Black Angel.
ooh.
And I mostly forgot a lot of the things about it, but one of the big things that I heard from him is that apparently this angel has a curse where it shows up in your dreams. And if you keep seeing it in your dreams, it means 3 days from now you will die.
Why was there
There's that,
never a
man.
movie about that? Oh my gosh, that would be such a killer movie. Literally.
Anyways, yeah, there's that from my friend. Do you have one from yours, Phoenix? Maybe from a certain NPC?
Well, actually, he did not send me anything.
Oh,
So,
dang.
but I know Tim has something about Ohio that he could share with us because we were talking about it beforehand. If he still wants to do that, Tim, do you want to wrap up the show with your final story about a place in Ohio that we were talking about?
I'm trying to remember because I didn't research this. But there was a place in Ohio where there lived a creature that was 10 feet high, the head of a snake, arms of a human, legs of a human, and then the tail of a snake. And he would go around, come out of the water, and go to various houses and kidnap the children and eat them, usually right in front of the parents. And there was one time where the town finally had enough, so they showed up with torches. And they went looking for the monster, and they found him. And the monster bit off the head of one of them, and then dove into the lake and swam away. Apparently, that was the last time it was ever heard of. But they say if you go to the lake, you can see it bob its head up occasionally.
Is that the Crosswick snake monster?
It might be.
Well, that's creepy as all get out. I'm glad I didn't
That's
grow
the
up in
one.
Ohio. I mean, I lived there for
Hilarious.
the first almost 3 years of my life, and then I moved to the great state of insanity. No, just kidding. Indiana.
Raise the IQ levels of both states.
Oh, you're funny. Dude, man, this has been great. What about you, Zombie? Do you have anything else about any other, like, I know you did everything else, but we've gone almost 2 hours now. This is probably going to be closest to one of our longest podcasts that we've ever done. It's up there
This
with
honestly should have been a two-parter.
it really should. But
The only thing I have is, and I don't know if you were heard of Central State Hospital, Phoenix.
I have not.
So Central State Hospital was the hospital in Indianapolis that closed down due to mistreatment of patients. And I can't remember exactly when it closed down, but supposedly, like patients were being mistreated, and people that died, they just buried them out back in like a mass grave.
Oh, geez.
And for the longest time, it sat empty, and the grounds were used for the police force's mounted patrol. It's where they kept the horses.
Yeah.
But I'd heard that they're tearing it down and actually building condominiums there.
Well, that's going to be interesting. I want to be first in line for that.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. I mean, you know how much those are going to go for?
Oh, gosh. It's going to be quite pricey. I mean, especially since it's a condo, but still, um,
And that's just what I heard.
yeah, that's pretty creepy in itself. Well, we'll see. We got some last minute story from Bones, aka Zombie. But you know what? We could possibly make this a two-parter. Matter of fact, I may split this episode and make it a two-parter, and you know, we're going to
It's genius. We don't even have to do. All right, yeah, there we go. that all works out, man.
So yeah, I think we're gonna make this a two-part episode, and you know, that way we still keep with our time frame and whatnot. But before we go, I want to announce something that's going to be happening in the next couple months. We're planning on launching our first episode of it in December, and we are going to be doing. And don't say that I'm going to say it's going to be like From the Ashes goes to the movies, but
Shilling.
do it.
You're shilling.
But I don't know what it's going to be called, but I do like that. But we're going to brainstorm on that. But basically, my friend Arson here and myself and the newcomer Tim, we're going to start doing a showing of a movie, basically old school movie that's lost its copyright, so we don't get, you know, struck down for that, and that's in the public domain pretty much. And we are going to sit there and enjoy watching a movie, and we're going to give you guys our commentary on it, whether it be just completely trashing the movie or you know, letting you know how we're enjoying certain parts of it, you know. So it's going to be interesting. I'm expecting it for just to be the three of us, but I think there's going to be some episodes that we're going to do that possibly could have an extra person in, like maybe we'll have Zombie in there one day, or maybe Ocean actually showed interest in wanting to be a part of it. So, you know, there's all of that and more. So we're wanting to do that quarterly. So 4 times a year, we're going to test it out and see how it works. And it's going to be strictly on YouTube. So, I mean, come on, let's face it, like having a comment, like basically, if I released a podcast with us just you being able to hear the movie would be stupid. So it'll be strictly on YouTube, and that'll begin probably in December. So I'm excited for that. Also, we've got some new shorts that are going to start in November, and that's going to consist of myself, Zombie, and my NPC friend Raven. And we're going to be talking and listing our tier list, because we're going to carry on from, you know, everybody wants to do a tier list. So it's going to be probably 5 or 6 episodes long of a short, and it's going to consist of Star Trek and their factions in there, and we're going to rank our factions on tier lists. You know, whether it be the Romulans, the how'd you say the Federation, Zombie? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Oh, it was funny. He screwed up the one name that he shouldn't have. It was great. But anyways, we're gonna be doing that through the month of November, probably into December, and then Arson and I have got something special planned for some of December with some shorts as well. And I'm not gonna reveal that just as yet, but it's gonna be epic. I'm telling you, it's gonna be awesome. So, but that being said, I've really enjoyed doing this, guys, and I want to thank Tim for being here, and you know, I appreciate you so much, my friend, and you brought some really good stories, and I appreciate that. I want to thank Arson and as always Zombie for being here, being the constant in this podcast. You know, we're still looking for our fallen members and missing members. So when they're turn
not
up,
coming back.
probably not. We'll see Amanda again. You know, Amanda always turns up. She's like that, you know, penny that's not bad but good, you know. So in case she's listening. But that being said, look for a lot of awesome things happening from the Ashes coming up. If you want to know more about our podcast or anything From the Ashes related, there will be a link in the description below. That's our link tree, and it takes you to all From the Ashes social medias and whatnot, for your From the Ashes needs. How many times can I say From the Ashes in just one paragraph?
From the ashes, from the ashes, from the ashes, from the ashes.
Also, in that link, as long as Tim provides that with me, I will share his link to his awesome TV show, Something Suave Theater. And I would love to share share him with the world when it comes to that, because, I enjoy it, and I just want you guys to enjoy it as well. So, but that being said, we've run out of time about an hour ago, and
What are you talking about? I'm sure we got more time to squeeze in a few more.
we do. All right, well, go ahead. You wanna shoot in another one?
All right, this is the legend of Joe.
Of the Wishmaster. Oh, you got me on that one. All right, guys. Without any further ado, you guys have a good week, and we will all be back next week with some more From the Ashes. Have a great week, guys.
Reports begin back in the summer of 1909.